أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين. In the name of Allah, the infinite love spreader, the infinite love creator. First of all, I would like to welcome all of our dear guests from all over the world who are watching us and are going to deliver lecture and take benefit from this very important meeting. So I would like to welcome warmly all of my guests, and we have gathered together here to speak about how to build a better world. So this is why Tehran University, particularly Theology College, with the cooperation and collaboration of some international institution, decided to make some program for a better life, or in other words, for the beautification of the world, because we believe that all followers of the Abrahamic religions believe in monotheism, and by this way we can make the world very beautiful. So this is why the Faculty of Theology of Tehran University, with cooperation and collaboration of LUKE10 and some other institutions, particularly the Holy Quran and the Old and New Testament Society in Iran, have some collaboration to speak about the common points for the better life. So you know that the Holy Quran and the New Testament and the Old Testament are emphasizing some common points that are very important for all people to know. And by this way, we can draw the attention of all people to focus on the most important points of the Old and the New Testaments and the Holy Quran. And we know that all the Abrahamic prophets and divine messengers have sent by the same God. So this is why we have many important common points to focus on and many topics to speak about. So this is why we have invited from some international and important and prominent figures from the United States of America and from Iran to deliver lectures at the beginning, and at the end we have a panel discussion to answer the questions and to speak about the important points that you have in your mind. So I would like to emphasize that each dear lecturer have only 7 minutes to deliver lecture, because we have some other prominent lecturers to deliver lectures. And at the end we will have a panel discussion, and we have free time to speak about the common points. So we have a list of the lecturers here, and I would like to introduce the dear guests from the United States of America first, and the Iranian lecturers second. Dr. Doug Hostetter from the United States of America, and he's very important and prominent figure, and many people in all over the world know him very well. And he is a peace pastor in the Mennonite Church and the member of the Pax Christ International Advocacy Team at the United Nations. And we have Bishop John Chain, President and CEO of the President Episcopal Catholic Foundation, and Dr. Mahmoud Waizi of the Faculty of Tehran University, Islamic Studies, and Dr. Nadia Maftoon, Associate Professor of the Tehran University, and Dr. Breyer, Executive Director of the Interfaith Center of New York, Dr. Qurban Elmi, Associate Professor of University of Tehran, and Dr. Mohsen Javadi, Professor of the University of Qom, and I am at your service. I'm Sayyid Abul Hassan Musavi, Quranic researcher. So first of all, I would like to draw your attention to the introduction of the Dr. Waizi, who is going to welcome all of the dear guests from the United States of America and all over the world. Dr. Waizi, please.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praises due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the Beneficent, the Merciful, Master of the Day of Resurrection. You do we serve and you do we beseech for help. Keep us on the right path, the path of those upon whom you have bestowed your favors, not of those upon whom your wrath is brought down, nor of those who go astray. It's a very great pleasure for me and my colleagues here in the University of Tehran to start a very important scientific program with scientific institutes about the very important matter, the solution and the fruitful collaborations of all religions to build a better world. Very, very welcome to all professors, students from Iran and other countries. In this short time, first I should present my appreciations to the professors, specifically Professor Farid-Zadeh, Professor Doug Hostetter, and Bishop John Chan, and other professors who are present in this very great and scientific program. In this short time, firstly, I should have a greeting and blessings, and secondly, fundamental and common principles of religions, and secondly, I refer to principle of Islamic unity to build a better world. First of all, while welcoming the honorable professors and students, we offer our greetings and blessings to the soul of innocent children and women who are killed by the lawless Zionist government these days. Thorough human history, moral teaching of religions have always been discussed and explained in different languages, but never before the eye of the world's religious people and followers. The hospital is bombarded. No time in the history. The oppressed people, innocent people, who are killed in the most horrible way in front of eye of the followers of religions and some scholars of religions are silent. Good. The first point that we should refer to, and because of this shortage of time, as well as Dr. Musavi presented and said, I want to say that we have a few common points in all religions. The essence of all religions are the same. Essence. Here you can see in this figure. The first, supplication and prayer. In all of, specifically in Abrahamic religions, you can find it. The first common point is prayer. And secondly is remembrance, al-dhikr, remembrance of God. And the third point is thanksgiving, ash-shukr, as-salatu wa-dhikru wa-shukr. If we search for different religions of the world, specifically Abrahamic religions, we can find out that these three important points are common completely. We don't have enough time to talk, excuse me. The other important method that in Islam, we have a few important terms and expressions. That these are the terminology of the Holy Quran about relations. Relations to the friends, to people, to the family, to Allah. The focus and the important point, that's the relation of oneself to Allah, is love. Love. Al-Hubb. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ تَبَارَكَ وَتَعَالَى. أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. In this short time, I'm going to talk about Islamic tolerance as a model of human interaction. I want to say that in these different terminology you see here in this picture, in this figure, the focus one, the center of all expressions is love. Just for Allah, infallible imams, apostles of God. And the second round is al-mawaddah. Al-mawaddah. It's referred to the family. وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. We should have attention to whom? To our family. It's very important. And affection. We say al-mawaddah. Maybe you translate it in a better word, I don't know. But I suppose affection is a good, suitable word here. And the second round, to the friends, to the religious friends, to followers of the religion, you accepted it. That we say rifq, kindness. And the important one that we are going to talk about is al-mudara, tolerance. Tolerance. So this is just terminology, and we go on. There is important point here that maybe you say that, oh, of course, in Western countries we hear tolerance, and in Islamic countries, yes, Islamic religion, you say, in religion of Islam, you say tolerance. So these are the same. No, these are not the same. The tolerance in Islam is completely different from tolerance of Western countries and liberalism. It's important. When we say Islamic tolerance, it means that we accepted it as a virtue-oriented, fazilat mehvar, the son of Farsi. It means that it's a virtue. And secondly, it's a belief. When you have tolerance with the people of the world and your society, this belief is an internal behavior that you believe in. You believe in good behavior with all people. It's your belief. It's not just something apparent or pretending some action, no. And the third important method is that Islamic tolerance is individual and also social. In both of them, you can find it. And when you go on in liberal tolerance, we say that the liberal tolerance is case-oriented. What does it mean? It means that when you are going to participate in election, of course you may you may establish a group. This is case-oriented. We don't say that this kind of tolerance in Islam. No, it's completely different in Islam. And secondly, limited time, your behavior has tolerance. It's important. But when you say in Islam, Islamic behavior for tolerance is completely different. It's forever. It means that here, there, in that village, in that city, in that country, yes, it's something you believe in. And secondly, it's somehow political party when you say tolerance. To win in an election, it's shortage of time, not forever. So we can differentiate between two important matters. And we have not enough time. I suppose the 7 minutes are over. And the end of this article that I have prepared it is the effects and results of kindness and tolerance in Islamic traditions. The effects and results. What are the effects and results in Islamic traditions, in Islamic manner, in the Holy Quran? We see that at least 5 or 6 important results we can say, but I have not enough time to talk about. Rationality, the first. In Islam, we say that, for example, the very beautiful tradition from the Holy Prophet that said that رَأْسُ الْعَقْلِ مُدَارَاتُ النَّاسِ بِالْجَمِيلِ. The topic of your reason is this, that when you talk with the people, your behavior should be the best. The best. So rationality, immunity, protection from so many things, and also continuity of life, finding the best friends, keeping faith, and blessing and abundance. These are whatever in our tradition are mentioned and are very, very beautiful. To build a better life and sublime world, we need at least 2 common strategies among religions. Firstly, it's very important, 2 important matters. Firstly, to have a constructive dialogue, which we spoke about this before, and I don't want to talk about this matter, as well as the Holy Quran says that وَإِنَّا أَوْ إِيَّاكُمْ لَعَلَى هُدًى أَوْ فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. It means that when we want to talk with others, we should accept that either my view is correct or my view is wrong. It's important. Either his view is correct or his view is wrong. Vice versa of this constructive is this, that, for example, generally we say that my view is correct and has a possibility of error for me. But vice versa, in the person I'm talking with him, the other's view is wrong, firstly. Everyone thinks so. And it's possible that it would be correct. We say that, no, it's not acceptable in Islam. We say that both of them are the same. And at the end, so I wanted to emphasize on these 2 important matters. The first, having constructive dialogue, and secondly, to have tolerance. Tolerated manner is very, very important, as well as the Holy Quran says, and we hope to be so, that وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ وَيَكُونَ الرَّسُولُ عَلَيْكُمْ شَهِيدًا. Thank you again, and welcome to all professors and students. Have a nice time. We are the service. Mr. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Waizi. We took benefit from his lecture, and he spoke about the oppressed people in all over the world, particularly in Palestine, and who are being killed by some oppressors, and unfortunately so many people in all over the world are keeping quiet and do not pronounce and do not denounce against the criminal activities in this region. So this is very important to know that we should follow the teachings of the Old Testament, the New Testament, the Holy Quran practically, and by this way we can help them, and we can strengthen our humanity and strengthen the teachings of the Old Testament and New Testament and the Holy Quran, and we can take a step or take an action for their prosperity. So we have many other lecturers, and as I told you, we have not enough time to speak more. I would like to draw your attention to one of the most important, prominent lecturers, Dr. Doug Hostetter, peace pastor in the Mennonite Church and a member of the Pax Christi International Advocacy Team at the United Nations. Please, Doctor, are you ready?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It is a great privilege to be able to be a part of this webinar. I am speaking about cooperation across faith traditions to heal a fractured world. 30 years ago, a genocidal war in Bosnia was raging. Serbian Orthodox Christian militia were slaughtering and expelling their Bosnian Muslim neighbors with whom they had been living for the past 400 years. I remember struggling with this issue. What can a person of faith who does not believe in a God who would sanction the killings and displacement of people because of their ethnicity or religion, what should one do in the middle of a genocide being carried out in the name of your God? I remember thinking that the opposite of genocide is love and inclusion. I remember praying and asking God to show me the way to love in the midst of war and genocide. A Turkish-American Sufi Imam neighbor of mine visited Bosnian refugees in Europe and realized that there were many well-educated Bosnian Muslim and mixed ethnic students in the refugee camps in Bosnia who could no longer attend the university due to the war and ethnic cleansing. He returned to the United States and wrote to 300 U.S. colleges and universities, asking them if they would provide full tuition scholarships for qualified Bosnian students who could no longer study in their own country because of their ethnicity or the war. He received only one response from a Christian college in Indiana that said that they would be glad to offer a scholarship to a Bosnian student as long as they were Christian. When the imam realized that he was unable to get any useful response, he approached the Fellowship of Reconciliation, the FOR, a 100-year-old primarily Christian pacifist interfaith organization where I worked, which had many members who were professors or chaplains in American colleges and universities. The imam asked the FOR to work with his mosque to start the Bosnian Student Project. to bring talented Bosnian students out of the war zone and into U.S. schools and homes. The Fellowship of Reconciliation reached out to their members and friends with the request that they ask American colleges and universities to offer full tuition scholarship to qualified Bosnian students. If the school administrator were willing, we would bring qualified Bosnian students to the school and find a family willing to provide room and board for a church, mosque, or synagogue that was willing to raise the funds for the student room and board at the school. The project needed the assistance of the Austrian chapter of the World University Service, which had offices in Sarajevo, Bosnia, and in Zagreb, Croatia, where many of the Bosnian refugees had fled. The project was only possible due to the interfaith cooperation of the Sufi Muslim Mosque, the Christians and Jews in the Fellowship of Reconciliation, and the primarily Catholic staff of the World University Service. The Sufi Muslim Mosque provided volunteers for the project and also gave confidence to the Bosnian Muslim families that their children would be loved and protected in the United States. The Fellowship of Reconciliation provided staff and a network of members and friends with connections to schools, colleges, and universities in the U.S. The World University Service provided academic records, briefings, and logistics for Bosnian students for their interviews for U.S. student visas at the U.S. Embassy in Zagreb, Croatia. In the 4 years of the war in Bosnia, the Bosnian Student Project brought 160 Bosnian Muslim and mixed ethnic students out of the war zone and into American homes and schools. Everyone who participated in the project benefited from that effort. The Bosnian Muslim, Croats, and Serbs who cooperated to bring Bosnian students out of the war zone, the Bosnian Muslim and mixed ethnic students who came to the U.S. to continue their education and are now working as scientists, engineers, professors, doctors, and business professionals in Bosnia, the U.S., and around the world, as well as the American Christian, Muslim, and Jewish host families who welcomed these students into our homes during the war. All of us were transformed by the experience. I know, as my wife and I, and our 2 young sons at the time, had been forever changed by the experience of sharing our home with 2 Bosnian Muslim graduate students during the painful years of the war in Bosnia. Today, we are facing a genocidal war of Palestinian Muslims in Gaza after a horrendous attack on southern Israel by Muslim militias from Gaza, killing more than 1,400 Israelis and capturing over 200 men, women, and children in the greatest loss of Jewish life in one day since the Holocaust. The Israeli army, with the military support of the U.S., has halted almost all shipments of food, water, medicine, and fuel to the people of Gaza and demanded an evacuation of the Palestinians from their homes in northern Gaza, and has continued with relentless bombing of Gazan cities, refugee camps, schools, and hospitals, killing more than 7,000 Palestinians, including more than 3,000 children. Today, I pray that God will show the way for people of faith in the U.S., Iran, Israel, and around the world, people who do not believe in a God that blesses the killing and displacement of people on the basis of ethnicity or religion, that we can unite in an effort to call for an immediate ceasefire, the release of all prisoners, and the end of this war and the occupation. We must commit ourselves to work together to create a future Middle East where Muslims, Christians, and Jews can live together in dignity, security, and harmony. I thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a very enjoyable lecture. and he focused on very important points, particularly the ethnic cleansing in the history, particularly in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and genocide war in Palestine and Gaza. So many people are being killed just now when we are speaking. So many innocent people in Gaza are being killed by the United States of America and Western countries who are claiming that are supporting democracy, humanity, and human rights. So it is the time for all people in all over the world, particularly those people who are following the Abrahamic religions, Christianity, Islam, the Holy Quran, those people who are reciting the Holy Quran, and those people who are reading the New Testament and Old Testament. You know that we have so many important points to focus to support Palestinian and the people in Gaza. And our dear guests, Dr. Doug Hostetter, emphasized on very important points. Thank you very much again, Doctor. And we have another important lecturer, the Dr. Javadi from Iran. And Dr. Javadi is one of the professors of University. Dr. Javadi, are you ready?
Yes.
Yes, please. Would you please hold on? Yes, please.
First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of this session meeting and also the participants from different countries and all of the students participated in this meeting. It was supposed that I talk about the comparison between forgiveness and justice in making it or in building a better world, but due to the limitation of the time, I focus only on justice and its role in building a better world in providing a peaceful life. So just emphasize on justice, not talking about forgiveness. So at first, I want to say something about the peaceful life. What is peace? The word peace refers originally to the situation in which people and states are not involved in war, therefore being in the status of reconciliation. However, its developed meaning signifies to be in the condition of tranquil and having no threatening worry or tension in the life. Peace is a social moral ideal and is commanded by God to be followed all time. As God has said, "O you who believe, enter into peace altogether and follow not the footstep of Satan. Truly he is manifest enemy unto you." This is the verse of the Noble Quran. Imam Ali, peace be upon him, narrated from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him, that reconciliation between people is better than 1 year of prayer. One reconciliation between, for example, two persons is better than 1 year of prayer. So this is important narration from the Prophet Muhammad. So there is no doubt, nonetheless, that a real faith in Allah necessitates a love for men and even all creatures of Allah. And the love for men is the basis of reconciliation and tranquility. Therefore, whether there is harm or hatred for somebody, or there is murder or violation of people's rights, whether of property or of honor, the light of faith is deep there, and the germs of atheism have grown up in it. The word justice, I am talking justice as justice has two meanings as a general term, refer to virtue or morality or good qualities of soul, but the second meaning is specific usage of justice. I'm talking about two of these usages, both of these usages. Justice as the combination of the virtues. The word justice has various meanings and applications. Justice refers sometimes to one's all virtues. In this usage, justice is not a separate, distinguished virtue alongside, for example, courage or temperate or phronesis or other virtues, and refers merely to the combination of virtue in the human soul and society. In this usage, justice is taken as equivalent to moral goodness. The word just or justice in both the Old and New Testament, the biblical authors are most likely referring to personal holiness and moral life. But justice in its more specific meaning, there were and still are debates about the definition of justice in its more specific meaning among the scholars. Aristotle related the concept of justice to the concept of desert and defined justice as giving to everyone what he or she deserves, distributive justice, or doing with him or her what he or she deserves, corrective or restorative or retributive justice. Imam Ali says, consider the role of justice in social peaceful and building a better world and tranquil life as more than generosity and forgiveness. This is the important issue that I concern, because sometimes Imam Ali, peace be upon him, asked about the priority of justice over forgiveness or justice. So the question was, which one of the justice or generosity is better? But the answer of Imam Ali is justice is better and more noble for some reasons. Some of them I prefer. Justice put the matters in their places. You know, forgiveness also is very important, because if we, for example, enumerate some principal issue of Islamic social ethics, we must refer to forgiveness as one of them. But in comparison with justice, Imam Ali says justice is better, because justice put the matters in their places, and generosity moves them from their direction. Justice, the second reason, justice is a general policy, and generosity is a special event, not as the basis for rule. Justice can be considered as the basis of Islamic rule or maybe social rules, but generosity cannot be considered as the basis of ruling or rule. So this is the narration of Imam Ali. So I will say something about the social justice. You know, the term social justice was not used in Greek philosophy. We have not this term in Aristotle or after Aristotle. Social justice, yes, we have other forms of justice, distributive justice, and I taught some of them, but this term is religious term. Some of Western scholars, Thomas Patrick, says it has been, this term has been mainly a religious conception, in the sense that it originated in religious circles, underwent a large part of its conceptual development in official statements of religious authorities, and has been adopted by the members of religious organizations. Social justice is defined distribution of the social and economical resources of society for the benefit of all the people in the society. This concept based upon the belief that each individual and group within a given society has a right to civil liberties, equal opportunities, fairness, and participation in the educational, economical, institutional, social, and moral freedoms and responsibilities valued by the community. So, I say something about social justice in Islam, citing one of the famous scholars of Iran, Shahid Mutahari, says, justice in Islamic perspective is a kind of worldview. Justice in Islamic perspective is not a principle like other principles, for example, the principle of generosity or the principle of, for example, not telling truth, not lying. This is not same as other rules or other obligations. This is in Islamic perspective is a kind of worldview, and also the criterion of assessing the rules. It is not a rule like other rules. It is the criterion of assessing the rules and the basis of a legitimate and deserved leadership. And also it is an human ideal, and in addition to all, it is a social responsibility for the Muslims. He says that the verses of the Noble Quran related to social justice in the Noble Quran can be divided into 4 parts. Some of them related to family or home economics, some of them judicial affairs, some of them justice in the communities, meaning the proper regulation of personal social relations, and the political justice. So, living in a religious manner is nothing but loving other persons as the creatures and signs of God. As the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, says, religion is not but love rooted in the love of God. This is in Arabic. Ghazali distinguished between hubbullah, love of God, and al-hubbu fillah, love of the creators, of the people, based on the love of God. So this is two form of love of God. But it only can be, so as the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, says, religion is not but love rooted in the love of God, but it only can be actualized, this is an important point, within a framework of justice. And ethics of law will remain hopelessly vague unless it is realized in the light of principles of justice. This is, critical of William K. Franklin against some sort of interpretations of some religious, ethics of Christianity. So he says that ethics of law will remain hopelessly vague unless it is realized in the light of principles of justice. Even forgiveness, both of the boundaries of justice, is a sort of vastness. So, for the sake of time, say something about justice as the end of religion. Justice is not only framework for religious rulings, it is also an end of the religion. Justice is not only basis of his book, Sharia, but also is the end of his prophetic activity, God's prophetic activity in the history of humankind. We have indeed sent, this is the Noble Quran, we have indeed sent our messengers with clear proofs. And we sent down the book and the balance with them that the people would uphold justice.
Thank you very much.
So, just 1 minute.
Yes,
final.
Please.
We are here as vicegerent of God. Allah says, and then your Lord said to the angels, indeed, I am placing a vicegerent upon the earth. They said, will you set in it someone who will cause corruption in it and shed blood while we celebrate your praise and proclaim your sanctity? He said, truly I know what you do not know. So this is important point. Being a vicegerent of God in the earth results in an individual having responsibility for God, himself and others. So Allah commands justice and loves the just. So his vicegerent must be just and enjoys justice in different spheres of his life, including personal and social relations. And the final point, responsibility to avoid wrongdoings. Wrongdoing gives rise to hatred and tension among the wrongdoing means injustice among the persons and damages the social capital and friendship among the people. Wrongdoing and injustice is the source of destruction, and good deeds make the people of a village immune from destruction and devastation. Allah says, and we never destroy towns save when a people are wrongdoers. And your Lord would never destroy the towns unjustly while their people were reforming. A human being as the vicegerent in the earth will not be wrongdoers and destroyer of the earth. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr.
There is no time to explain more.
Thank you very much, Dr. Javadi. You pointed out very important points, and I'd like to summarize the most important one. Dr. Javadi spoke about the peace, and he spoke about some verses of the Holy Quran and some narrations from the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and Imam Ali. And he said that concerning our verses of the Holy Quran and narrations, justice is more important than the generosity, and justice is better than generosity. Justice is a general policy, and generosity cannot be a general rule. And he pointed out the social justice, and he classified them as 4 important classes: family justice, or justice in family, justice in community, justice in political affairs, and justice in judiciary. Thank you very much, Dr. Javadi, and we enjoyed your important lecture. So it's the turn for another very important, prominent figure from the United States of America, Bishop John Chain, President and CEO of the Protestant Episcopal Cathedral Foundation. Please.
Good morning. I would like to, first of all, greet all of you and just to share with you that my function really is as the 8th Bishop of Washington, D.C., and also the Senior Advisor for Interreligious Dialogue at Washington National Cathedral. In 2006, I was invited by the author Karen Armstrong to join 30 global religious leaders representing the 3 Abrahamic faiths, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, and the Interfaith traditions of Buddhism, Hinduism, Sikhism, and Jainism. We gathered under the shroud of secrecy for 3 days and nights of work in the village of Vevey on the shores of Lake Geneva. Dr. Armstrong had just won a TED Prize. The challenge, how can interfaith collaboration build a better world and become a force for change? Is there something within our faith traditions and teachings, a shared mission that could physically and spiritually impact and begin to change our world badly divided by politics, armed conflict, terrorism, poverty, nation-state values, and ideologies? And at the end of the 3rd day following our work, the word compassion surfaced. Our initial work led several years later to the formation of the Charter of Compassion, which is now spread throughout the world. However, the power of the faith traditions that gave birth to the Charter seemed to have been lost in the shuffle. God is the ultimate source and presence of love. Yet without compassion, we are unable to live fully within God's unconditional love. Compassion is the action element, the verb, if you will, that is needed to fulfill God's love in today's world. A world divided and broken by human suffering, armed conflict, and environmental degradation. The work of compassion fulfills God's purpose of unconditional love for the world and of all humanity, regardless of one's affinity to Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and the Indic religions. If we say that we love God with our whole heart, soul, and mind, and yet we do not love our neighbors, we are devoid of the act of compassion, and love is a hollow concept and an unfulfilled promise. A shared and ancient Islamic story that I share, and it has within the common truth needed, I believe, to seek a core value for our future work as an interfaith collaboration to build a better world, merging God's love with the need of humanity to engage in the work of compassion. Once upon a time, there was an old woman who used to meditate on the banks of the Ganges River. One morning, finishing her meditation, she saw a scorpion floating helplessly in the strong current. As the scorpion was pulled closer, it got caught in the roots that branched out into the river, and the scorpion struggled frantically to free itself, but got more and more entangled. And the old woman immediately reached out to the drowning scorpion, which she touched, and it stunned her. The old woman withdrew her hand, but regaining her balance, once again tried to save the creature, and every time she tried, the scorpion's tail stung her so badly that her hands became bloody and her face distorted with pain. A passerby saw the old woman struggling with the scorpion and shouted, "What's wrong with you, fool? Do you want to kill yourself to save that ugly thing?" Looking into the stranger's eyes, she answered, "Because it is the nature of the scorpion to sting. Why should I deny my own nature to save it?" This story is a reminder that we are called to engage in the hard work of compassion, regardless of the challenges that it possesses. Compassion bearing the burdens of others, even if it leads to self-suffering for the sake of others, is and should be our mission as the people of God, who are called to love unconditionally, as God so loves us. Freeing others from the shackles of poverty, homelessness, violence, economic insecurity, the impact of environmental degradation, and the loss of basic human rights must be our mission that emanates from our interfaith collaboration to build a better world. Compassion resides at the core of all Abrahamic faith. It's a principle of action, not a reaction. Without the action of bearing the burden of others, compassion loses its meaning and the function and the light of God's presence in the world, which is threatened by our own inaction. My Jesus teaches Christians that the divine presence of God is the force of all goodness and compassion in the world. Likewise, in Karen Armstrong's book, Muhammad, a Prophet for Our Time, she often refers to the Prophet Muhammad and his embrace of sympathy, compassion, and respecting the rights of others. As we begin our work together in interfaith collaboration to build a better world, we must be willing to work on issues that may be, for some, uncomfortable and challenging. But it must be focused on working together, using the teaching that comes to us in our divine holy books. There will come a time when the guidance of the teachings of our faith, conflict with the domestic and foreign policies of our country, will become a reality. When being seated at Washington National Cathedral as the 8th Bishop of Washington, I asked a colleague, the Reverend Dr. William Sloan Coffin from Yale University, to preach at the service. 3 months earlier, at the National Cathedral, President George W. Bush spoke about the threat to the world from the axis of evil. He named the axis as North Korea, Iraq, and Iran. I asked Dr. Coffin to respond to the President's remarks and challenged him. His entire sermon was based on the real axis of evil: poverty, illiteracy, misogyny, inadequate health care, indiscriminate violence, malnutrition, and the hegemony of the United States and other nations. In the middle of that sermon, President Bush's sister and others from the United States government in attendance rose from their seats in the cathedral and walked out in protest. That moment and that sermon appeared to be a rejection of our beginning work in Washington and a threat to our future as Bishop of Washington. But in time, that rejection opened up communication between the White House, our office in the Diocese of Washington, at the National Cathedral and its mission and ministry, and work on Capitol Hill, addressing the domestic, global humanitarian policies of the Church based on the impactful teachings of Jesus, Muhammad, the Old Testament prophets, and the holy books of other faith traditions. And today, that process continues in part through the work of LUKE10 and its board of directors. Blessings to all of you who gather on this webinar this morning, and I pray that we can find ways to work together in a too often unworkable world.
Thank you very much. There are very important points in your lecture, and we took benefit from this discourse. Bishop John Chain pointed out very important points that we need in our time. Merging love to God with the needed people, with the needy people, is very important, that he pointed out. And Compassion is also a very important point that we need to have a better world and better life in our time. Call to love unconditionally. Unconditionally means that without any condition. Call to love unconditionally as God asked us. A very important point that he pointed out. And focus on working together. We can work together. Muslims, Islamic Muslims, and Christians and Jews and all people in all over the world, particularly the Abrahamic religions scholars, can work together. When we can cooperate and collaborate to beautify the world as much as we can, because beautification of the world is a very important point in our time. We need that. We are living in a very ugly world, the world full of oppression and depression and full of anxiety. Thank you very much. Bishop John Chain delivered a very important lecture. Just now, we are going to listen to Dr. Elmi, the Associate Professor in Tehran University. Dr. Elmi, are you ready? Please open your webcam and your mic. Dr. Elmi, can you hear me? We are waiting for Dr. Elmi to deliver his lecture. Dr. Elmi, can you hear me? Would you please open your webcam? Doctor?
Yes,
Yes,
but
please.
I have not webcam.
Oh, you have not any webcam? Yes,
Yes,
please.
yes.
Please. Just now you have open. You have
Yes,
webcam. Please.
yes.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Don't be tired. Good morning, our American colleagues. And I appreciate and thanks from the organizers of this meeting. The topic, the collaboration of followers of Abrahamic religions in making better and peaceful coexistence, I have chosen is because one of the most important crises of the human society at the present time. It is a very intense and hateful conflict in the Middle East, especially Palestine, the place of the appearance of many divine peoples, prophets, and the place of the birth and preaching of Jesus Christ. There we see a very pathetic situation there. Unfortunately, this is done in the name of following of religion. Therefore, we will look at the Abrahamic religions, especially in Judaism, to find out whether there is these religions, especially Judaism, allow such things to these followers, or on the contrary, there are heralds of peace and reconciliation among people. As I said, my topic is collaboration of followers of religions in making peaceful coexistence. First, I say that followers of religions comprise nearly majority of the world's population. The nature of the relationship of them is of considerable significance for the welfare of the whole human beings and human family. As Hans Kunk, one of the Western scholars, said, there will be no peace in the world until there is peace between the religions. And we can say that one guarantee of peace between cultures and civilizations or peace between religions. Because, as I said, these conflicts in the Middle East are conflicts among the Muslims and Jewishes in the appearance, but not Muslims and Jews or Christians have war and conflict with others. But in my opinion, they are not religious men. When I wanted to speak in this meeting, and I saw that U.S. brothers are members of LUKE10, I opened the New Testament and Luke 10, and I saw that chapter 10 of Luke is about the peace and coexistence and the necessity and importance of this. We must say that Abrahamic religion is a term commonly used to designate the three prevalent monotheistic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. These three peaceful religions share many similarities. The most important similarity is that they are monotheistic religions, and on the other hand, they believe that human being has been created in the image of Allah or in the image of God. And we see in the holy books of these religions, in Old Testament or New Testament and Holy Quran, killing one man is killing all men. So the human being and his life have many most position in these religions. All the faiths also claim that the main way to achieve salvation is to practice the religions in a more perfect and correct manner. The three Abrahamic traditions call for greater peace, and it is one of the most similarities among them, and love within a society. For example, in the Bible it says, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you. Luke 6:28-30. Muhammad, peace be upon him, claimed, you will not enter paradise as long as you do not love one another. And in the Torah, it says, be a excuse me, and in Torah it says, be a student of Aaron, love peace and pursue peace. We can say that Shalom, Salam and peace, 3 words in Judaism, Christianity and Islam, mean peace, and show that these 3 traditions seek peace. Peace is something very hard to attain and even harder to maintain. So I went to look at peace in Judaism. Humans are godlike, according to Judaism. If humans are godlike, then taking a human life is to diminish God in the world. Whoever sheds the blood of a human being by human beings shall his blood be shed. For in the divine image did God make humanity. In Genesis, we read this. And for example, in the Genesis we read again one of the 10 fundamental commandments in that book is this. Commandments was this: killing. You shall not kill. You shall not kill. So we have many examples in Holy Testament that what is original and what is proper is peace, not war. In Christianity, the teachings of Jesus Christ in the New Testament tells us clearly that peace was so important to him that he enjoined the establishment of peace at all costs. In one of his sermons, Christ observed, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God, in Matthew 5:9. Therefore, in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 10, as I said, we read that Jesus Christ sent 72 of his companions 2 by 2 to different cities to promote peace among peoples. And at the end, he said that the true peacemaker is a perfect man, such as Samaritan. And those who don't advocate of peace, they are bad men and bad human being. In Islam, again, peace is contained in the meaning of the very word Islam. Islam comes from SLM, Islam Salama. A Muslim in the true sense of the word, Muslim or Islam, is a person who does not harm anyone by his or her words or deeds. Among God's various names or attributes mentioned in the Holy Quran is As-Salam, or source of peace. That is to say, God is peace, as God is love. In conclusion, I can say that there are numerous non-violent and peace-building values in these religions, which are supported by the Holy Scriptures. They advocate of these values and expect their followers to live by them. These values are justice, doing good by struggling against oppression, and helping those who are in need, equality of all humans in creation, sacredness of life, lack of special privilege based on race, ethnicity, or tribal affiliation, quest for peace, which is a state of physical, mental, spiritual, and social harmony, forgiveness, and the importance of tolerance and kindness to other people. If these values will be observed by their followers, they live in harmony and peace with all fellow humans. At last, I refer to Mahatma Gandhi's suggestion that if an oppressive society lacks violence, the society is nonetheless not peaceful because of the injustice of the oppression. Gandhi articulated a vision of peace in which justice is an inherent and necessary aspect, that peace requires not only the absence of violence but also the presence of justice. At the end, I can say that the conflict between Israelis and Palestinians, of Muslims or Christians, are not result from their religions, but we can say that the other factors, especially racism, is the origin of this conflict, and the helpless and the oppressed people, women and children were killed today at the hand of Netanyahu and that regime. Thank you very much. At the end, I want to pray for a peaceful and coexistence and against of war. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Elmi. It was very scientific and very important lecture and very important points. Dr. Elmi pointed out that peace is not possible but with peace between religions, and religious cooperation is very necessary by this way. And humans are God-like according to the Judaism. So we should respect all people in all over the world. And it makes no difference to from the United States of America, European countries, Asians, Africans. What is important is to respect all people according to the teachings of the Old Testament and New Testament. And the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "You will not enter the paradise but to love all people in all over the world." And he said that Islam, Christianity, and Judaism seek peace, and in Islam, God is peace. And there are very important key words for his lecture, particularly justice, doing good, equality, and sacredness, and etc. And thank you very much, Dr. Elmi. We are going to go to the next important lecture from the United States of America, and she is struggling for better life and better world. Dr. Breyer, Executive Director of the Interfaith Center of New York. Thank you very much. Dr. Breyer, are you ready?
Yes, hi.
Hi,
Good
how are
evening.
you?
Good, thank you.
Thank you very much. We are ready to take benefit from your scientific and enjoyable discussion.
Thank you. Thank you to our hosts at the University of Tehran. And I'd like just to begin with a passage from the Psalm number 118, which says, "This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it." And I bring you greetings from LUKE10, from the Interfaith Center of New York and St. Philip's Episcopal Church in Harlem. And it's an honor to be part of this webinar. It is a good topic at a timely moment. Interfaith collaborations to build a better world. I'm going to speak briefly today about an example from my own experience of interfaith collaboration on the ground, and then offer a very short reflection about the power of covenants, or the idea of covenants in Abrahamic faith traditions as we seek to go about this work together. Over the past 26 years, the organization I work for, the Interfaith Center, which is a nonprofit in New York, has built very religiously diverse and civically engaged networks across New York City. We seek to overcome prejudice, violence, and misunderstanding by activating the power of New York's grassroots religious and civic leaders. There are Muslims, Sikhs, Hindus, Buddhists, Christians, Jewish, Afro-Caribbean tradition, and Native American New Yorkers who've gone to our social justice retreats. They have participated in our educational programs, and they've advocated with us about issues like immigration and religious freedom. We believe that at its core, interfaith work at a grassroots level is a valuable asset to democracy. It makes our civic fabric more resilient and more strong. And we would like to raise up particularly disenfranchised communities, communities of color, and women religious leaders, particularly in traditions that don't have a practice of ordaining them. We want to embrace their dual roles as religious leaders and active citizens. Well, since 2007, the Interfaith Center has sought to reflect the religious diversity of our city at every level of our organization. That means that we have on our staff, the small staff, we have 2 Jewish people, we have a Christian, we have an imam from Ghana, a Sunni imam who works at a mosque in the Bronx, a Palestinian Muslim from Brooklyn, and somebody in an office management position whose family is Ahmadiyya and comes from Pakistan. Well, this religious diversity has been very helpful for us to do our work. However, it has made these past weeks incredibly painful and very difficult, with the horrific attacks on Israel on October the 7th by Hamas. As Dr. Hofstadter pointed out, the worst attack on Jewish lives since the Holocaust. And then followed by this terrible siege and bombing by Israel of Gaza. We're up to now over 7,000 estimated civilian casualties. It is so easy to unravel years of trust, and we see it happening before our very eyes, not just in the Middle East, but in New York City as well. We have met with people in New York who have family members who are currently hostages being held at gunpoint. We also have a staff person who has in-laws. Her entire extended family is in Gaza right now with no food, no water, no even internet connection, and constant threat of bombing and invasion. Well, it's why efforts like the one we're engaged in right now are so important and should never, ever be granted. I'd like to try to hold on to some of the positive things and share them with you as a source of inspiration. Well, like Iran, I know you have had a real challenge with huge numbers of immigrants coming over your southern border from Afghanistan and other parts of the world. We too in New York City have a huge challenge with over 120,000 asylum seekers who have come to New York from all over the world, 2,000 to 3,000 a week, coming from in buses from Texas, but originally from Venezuela, Guatemala, Haiti, Senegal, Mauritania, Afghanistan, China, and some Iranians as well, all in general coming over the southern border. And as you know, there are huge gaps and huge needs that these individuals have as they come into the city and seek to make a better life for themselves and their families. Jamiatu Ansari Deen Mosque in the Bronx is a small mosque which has been serving as a shelter for over 100 men a night, sleeping in the mosque. Trying to get their feet on the ground. The imam there is known by border control by name in Texas. They call him whenever there is somebody who has his address, which as they often do from Senegal, they know him by name, and they come to the mosque. Well, they don't have a kitchen at that mosque, and they don't have very much food. All they have is the hospitality of the imam. And so we've worked quite hard to engage the Church of the Latter-day Saints, who've expressed an interest in supporting these migrants, who have given over $10,000 worth of dry goods for them to eat. We've gotten a Buddhist temple 15 minutes away to agree to cook that food and deliver it to them on Fridays after the Jummah prayers. So there are these examples of particularly around direct service, just even in the small neighborhoods in which we live. And these are examples never to be overlooked. There's also, though, this idea of what we can do, and I want to conclude with this remarks, about the larger, more systemic issues, not just charity, but also policy change. And for this, the idea of a covenant, making a covenant for ourselves as faith leaders, and holding our elected officials accountable for providing better shelter, for providing long-term housing, for getting work authorization so people can work, and providing health and education services. We want to do what we can ourselves and invite and hold accountable our political leaders to do the same. And we created this document in the form of a covenant, not a letter, not a petition, not even a vow, but a covenant, because we all share in common this idea of how God has continually renewed covenants with God's people through Abraham, through Jacob, through Moses. This idea of a sacred promise that we make as God's people together with God is an invitation to do what we can. And it's a confession that we never have to be able to deal with these challenges in our societies alone. We all have something to offer, and these problems are so big that we are facing. We need each other. And that's why we as children of Abraham can think of the commitments that we're making to improve our society as a kind of covenant that God will find beautiful and pleasing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Breyer. She spoke about very important points about the main important problems in all over the world, particularly in our time. There's so many clashes, so many fightings, and so many difficulties and obstacles for the collaboration to build a better world. So, she pointed out about the Palestine and about the Gaza and about the attack of Hamas, and inshallah we will discuss your point inshallah in our panel discussion. What is important is to focus who started the war, who started the occupation of Palestine. It is very important. So we should defend the oppressed people of Gaza and Palestine. And we should not focus on some parts of the history. We should focus on the general points and the whole truth of the history. The Palestinians are being killed during the history by the Zionist regime. They started the occupation, they started the war, and they are killing people, and they are continuing to massacre and slaughter people in Palestine with the worst crimes, killing people in hospital, innocent people, innocent children, and innocent civilians who are in hospital, and they are being killed by the Zionist regime is awful, and it is horrible activities, and we should condemn as the children of Abraham. We should condemn the oppressors and oppressive activities. Inshallah, we will discuss in panel discussion. Thank you very much. Just now we are going to speak, we are going to listen to Dr. Maftoon, one of the most important Tehran University, associate professor of university, Dr. Maftooni. Dr. Maftooni, are you ready?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Hello, everyone.
Hello and welcome.
Do you hear me?
Yes, very clearly.
Okay. So glad to meet our esteemed guests, Reverend Breyer, Reverend Hospital Bishop Che, and all guests in institutes like Baskerville Institute. I'm so glad to meet you in this virtual meeting. I'm faculty of Department of Islamic Philosophy. I hope my lecture won't bother you since it's a kind of philosophical presentation. And I'm also a senior research scholar at Yale, since Bishop Chen mentioned Yale. I should say my privilege is that I'm a senior research scholar at Yale Law School. Interreligious understanding of the Interfaith approach. After working on Farabi's stand on interreligious understanding, I thought I may well introduce sort of the theory of common language amongst religions in Interfaith. I was thinking maybe some of you should have heard my presentation about Farabi. So I started to work on Interfaith theory. Ibn Tufayl, a Spanish polymath and politician of the 12th century, has informed a wide range of later thinkers via his philosophical novel named Alive, the Son of a Wage, in which you could see the nature and mind convey human to God, independent, however consistent with religion. In his novel, Ibn Tufayl speaks of religion in principle. I mean, he doesn't mention any particular religion, like Farabi. He also doesn't mention any particular religion, not even Islam. Like the novel's protagonist grows up alone in an island, casting about for real happiness. He finds that real pleasure and true happiness is nothing but to view God. Nature has a fundamental role in happiness of life in four main levels. First, history begins from nature, from which is created life, and in which is raised by a raw deer mother. Second, life realizes all natural things insofar as becoming a living scientist. Third, resulted in the following stage, the ascertained alive ascertains rational reasoning. Fourth, alive arrives at mystical experiences, so that all natural beings convey him to God. Alive gets happiness figuring out that true happiness and pleasure is quite simply to view God. At long last, Alive meets up with a religious stranger from another island and learns that his devout beliefs are totally in accordance with Alive's own findings. Story development. Deprived of contact with other human beings and their writings, for example, the prophets, Alive goes on to discover the ultimate truth and genuine happiness solely in interaction with nature. The first journey beginning from nature, Alive is a child of nature into meaning according to two versions of the story narrated by Interfaith. Based on the first version, Alive was created in an island where human beings came into the world without parents. He then was raised by a raw deer. As for the second version, he was born into a human mother and father who were living in a great island other than the island of our story, the governor of which had a rather beautiful sister prevented from marriage. At last, she married privately a near relative called Awake and gave birth to a son called Alive. Then, being afraid that it should be discovered, she put him into a little ark. All courtesy of the type, Alive was carried ashore on the island of our story. Alone, in a quest for her lost fawn, hearing the cry, believed it was her fawn and came up to the ark. Let me share a photo which I have found. I'm not able to share because I'm not familiar with Skyroom. Normally, my webinars is on Zoom. Whichever version is the case, opening his eyes to a raw mother, Alive grows in an island without any other inhabitant. His first period of subjective movement consists of three parts. Initially, Alive learns all natural beings and becomes a great physicist. Further, he learns from nature his acts. Then, he generates empirical sciences like anatomy, autopsy, and vivisection. Next, Alive learns from nature the way of life. He ponders over his points of strength and weakness vis-a-vis nature. Then Alive learns from nature to cope with the situation and remedy his weaknesses. For instance, he got him some broad leaves of tree of which he made two coverings to cover himself. And this time strikes some important event, the death of his raw mother, which induces remarkable growth in his scientific motives. Finding the problem of the raw, Alive pursues anatomy and autopsy. Before the end of his 21st, he arrived to the highest degree of knowledge and this kind which the most learned naturalists ever attained to. The second journey from nature to rational reasoning. The second part of Alive's movement is that he begins to think in broad fashion, rational reasoning. The origins of rational reasoning could be seen before when he studies some kinds of animals. For example, he concludes that each animal has a soul requiring the unity of the animal soul. And after 21st, Alive goes on with rational reasoning in a serious way. As Interfaith points out, then he embarked on the other methods. Some English renderings lack this critical phrase. These new methods are pertaining to his ways of thinking, including two levels, in the first of which Alive begins to put natural beings into some categories and generalize them. The second level is that he goes on with generalization, entering in the mystical realm. He goes on with generalization all the way to what could be considered mystical territories. The first level of generalization. By this way of thinking, alive figured out that the whole species was one and the same thing, and that the multiplicity of individuals in the same species is like the multiplicity of parts in the same person, which indeed is not a real multiplicity. The second level, this way of reasoning leads alive to the spiritual world. However, it just touches on it. So it might be called quasi-mystical experience. The third journey, mystical thinking. Between his age of 21st and 28, alive's knowledge grows up to mystical experiences. He thinks on proving some agent would be called God. Now he knew that everything that was produced new must have some producer. And from this contemplation, there arose in his mind a sort of impression of the maker of that form. Although this notion of him as yet was general and indistinct. From the age of 28 to 35, his state is so that he is conveyed from every natural thing to the intelligible and focuses on the God features. When intelligible knowledge totally sheds light on his mind, alive again begins to study nature, believing all actions of all beings owe to God, not themselves. Now, when he had attained thus far so as to have a general and indistinct notion of that agent, he had a most earnest desire to know it distinctly. And because he had not as yet withdrawn himself from the sensible world, he began to look for this agent among sensible things. And he found that they were all liable to generation and corruption. Alive put them all aside. He inquired into all attributes of imperfection and perceived that the maker of the world was free from them all. And how was it possible for him to be otherwise, since the notion of imperfection is nothing but mere non-existence? And how can he anyway partake of non-existence, who is the pure existent necessarily by his essence, who gives being to everything that exists, and besides whom there is no existence? But he is the being, he is the perfection, he is the plenitude, he is the beauty, he is the glory, he is the power, he is the knowledge. He is he, and besides him, all things are subject to perishing. Such observation of God was so deeply established in Alive's heart that his heart was altogether withdrawn from thinking upon this inferior world. In the meanwhile, Alive began thinking about himself as a thinker who is able to find the supreme agent. His essence wasn't that corporeal mass clothed with his skin. He used to wish that it would please God to deliver him altogether from this body of his. Alive proceeds in this manner till passing his 50. The fourth journey and nest, the highest mystical level, when he beheld nothing existing but only that one permanent being. But he also finds that nature and all natural beings could very well function as the road to real happiness. Skipping some paragraphs, to real happiness and salvation. So he must take account of his body and the material part of life. Just in this stage, life returns to the sensible world, protecting nature. He became a nature protectionist. And at last, after all, life encounters a religious stranger showed up from another island, finding his beliefs in a complete accordance with his own thoughts. Then they went together into the mainland and lived with people. Alive figures out that religion is inevitable. Religions are needed for different societies and cultures, also different capacities of human mind. Somehow, like Farabi, who believes religions depict intelligible truth by imagination and divine imagery, having only one denotation, intelligible truth and pleasure is fixed and one, while its connotations sensory images and imagery forms are various and sundry. That being the case, different religions have different ways to perceive the same truth and the same objectives. In his works, Farabi doesn't mention any specific religion also. That's it. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much, Dr. Maftuni.